All right, let's just quickly recap chapter 9. So, in the last chapter, we learned that the girls sort of see Cecile more and more as just crazy. Um, Definitely not a mother figure. It's very clear that she doesn't really want them around. At least it feels like she doesn't want them around, doesn't let them in the kitchen, doesn't feed them. Um, so they're kind of struggling because they got to stay there. They have 27 more days and they have to stay there with their mother. So Delphine's kind of trying to keep the kids calm. Also, their mother kind of goes by two different names. I kind of made a connection between Cecile being also known as Inzilla to the Black Panthers, and early on, Muhammad Ali, how he had two names as well, Cassius Clay, and then he later changed his name to Muhammad Ali. So that was kind of an interesting connection there, that she's known by two different names by two different groups of people. Kind of the people in her past call her Cecile, and the people that she's with now, the Panthers, call her Inzilla, or Sister Inzilla. All right, let's look at our lens. Well, while we're reading today, we want to pay attention to character traits, the relationships, and the point of view of the narrator. So how the narrator kind of feels about different parts of the story. Want to be on the lookout for some themes or any changes to story elements. Let's get started. So Breakfast Program is the name of this chapter, and based on what we've already learned about the Black Panther Party, something that you should know is that the first breakfast programs for children were started by the Black Panthers. They're the ones who came up with this idea, and these programs are actually continued today. And we pay taxes to fund these programs. So if you've ever gotten breakfast at school, you can thank a Black Panther because they're the ones who thought about doing that for kids. We found the center like Cecile said we would. A line of hungry kids waited for breakfast, except they weren't all black. They were older teens in mostly black clothes and afros posted like soldiers guarding the outside. That hardly seemed necessary when a white and black police car circled around the block. Vanetta was already smiling and showing anyone who looked her way that she was worth a smile back, and she had picked out 3 girls who looked alike enough to be sisters, each one as thick as my sisters and I were lanky. They wore white boots and daisy dresses with flared sleeves. They might as well have been going to a go-go, not a free breakfast. A go-go, I think it's like a dance. I kept Fern near, my arms crossed before me. I was here to make sure my sisters and I ate breakfast, and to stay out of Cecile's hair. If Vanetta wanted to get her feelings hurt chasing after smiles and go-go boots, that was on her. The Panthers opened the doors and we trailed inside, the 3 of us sticking close together. As we entered, I did what Cecile said. I handed the box to the first Black Panther I saw and said, "This is from Cecile." I wasn't about to call her some name I didn't know or tell them that she said to leave her alone. The Black Panther guy opened the box. He took out a sheet from the stack of paper, a flyer with a crouching Black Panther and some writing on it, and held it up to examine it. He nodded and said, "Thank you, sister," and took the box with him. So this is interesting. Delphine kind of gives her mom's donation box to this Black Panther, but she doesn't say it's from Inzilla or to leave her alone. This kind of shows me that Delphine's independent and thinks for herself. She's not just trying to do what her mom asked her to do when she's not been given a reason for it. The 3 girls in flower dresses were standing on line looking at us. Vanetta tried to steer me over to them, but I didn't want to go chasing after them. Their dresses looked so nice and new. We wore shorts and suntops, although Oakland wasn't as sunny as we'd imagined California would be. I found us a place online behind Puerto Ricans who didn't look Puerto Rican, but who spoke Spanish. Then I remembered our study of the 50 states. They were probably Mexicans. I thought Black Panthers were only look out for black people, but there was 2 Mexicans, a little white boy, and a boy who looked both black and Chinese. Everyone else was black. I've never seen the Black Panthers making breakfast on the news, but then beating eggs never makes the evening news. So here's a point of view thing. The Black Panthers here, they seem different from what Delphine knows about them from TV. On TV, it seems like black folks only help out, the Panthers are only helping out black folks. But here, she's seeing them helping out many different kinds of people. Also, she points out that TV is not really showing them feeding the community. Interesting. As we stood online, a guy who should have kept walking stopped right in front of us. He crossed his arms and looked down at Fern. I recognized the biggest nose on that narrow face. He was the one in the telephone booth who had turned his back to us, like he didn't want to be seen. For all we knew, he was one of those in the black berets and afros who'd come knocking on Cecile's door last night. Now he stood across from Fern, his legs apart and his arms folded. "What is wrong with this picture?" he stated instead of asked. He knew the answer all right. I was pretty good at reading faces. He didn't have a leather jacket, but he was one of them. On his black t-shirt was a dead white pig with flies buzzing around it, and the words, "Off the pig," in white letters. So you should know that pig is another word in this time period for the police. People sometimes call the police pigs. His hair was stringy and loose, afro. His hair was a big, loose afro because it was a little bit stringy. Stringy like Lucy Raleigh's, who bragged about being part Chickasaw in the 4th grade, but by 5th grade was singing "I'm Black and I'm Proud" louder and louder because James Brown's song had made it a thing to do. The stringy afro-wearing beak man wasn't Papa grown or Cecile grown, probably all of 19 or 20, but he thought he was something. He was putting on a show for all the other black beret wearers. When none of us spoke, he pointed and asked again the question whose answer he already knew. "What is wrong with this picture?" Fern pointed back at him and said, "I don't know. What's wrong with this picture?" The other Black Panthers laughed and told Fern, "That's right, little sis. Don't take nothing from no one." And they slapped palms and said stuff like, "These are Sister and Zills, all right. Look at them." Beakman tried to stand up to his humiliation. Shake it off. "Little sis, are you a white girl or a black girl?" Fern said, "I'm a colored girl." He didn't like the sound of colored girl. He said, "Black girl." Fern said, "Colored. Black girl." Then Ned and I threw our colored on top of Fern's like we were ring tossing at Coney Island. This was bigger than "Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud." If one of us said colored, we all said colored, unless we were fighting amongst ourselves. So this is kind of interesting here. So this is like kind of a new character. He's kind of trying to like mess with these girls. But Fern isn't going to let him, letting up on him. And it's interesting that the other Panthers are kind of noticing that they're related to Cecile. And I'm wondering if it's not just because they look like Cecile. Maybe because she's like a little bit sassy. They stand up for themselves. Also, there's this character here, Kelvin. He's trying to make fun of them by saying they're colored, but these girls stick together. And they're loyal to each other. "All right then, colored girls," Big Beak said. "Why are you carrying that self-hatred around in your arms?" An older teenage girl in a Cal State t-shirt said, "Kelvin, you're crazy. Leave those colored girls alone." Big Beak, stringy-haired Kelvin looked pleased with himself. I said, "That's not self-hatred. That's her doll." "Yeah, a baby doll. Miss Pattycake." In spite of the Cal State girl and the other Black Panthers saying, "Leave those girls alone," he went on. "Are your eyes blue like hers? Is your hair blonde like hers? Is your skin white like hers?" The girl said again, "Crazy Kelvin, stop it. Just stop it." Crazy Kelvin turned to a lady who wore an African print dress and a matching cloth wrapped around her head. "Sister Makumbu, our colored girls here need some re-education." And he walked away, one of those pimp walks, like, "How you like me now?" Sister Makumbu just smiled at him like she didn't take Crazy Kelvin seriously. She and the Cal State girl exchanged a look. The Cal State girl turned toward me and said, "Don't mind Crazy Kelvin. That's what we call him. He's a little wild." For all of that, the eggs were cold, but we ate them, along with the buttered toast and orange slices. It was better than eating air sandwiches at Cecile's. Fern hugged Miss Pattycake, but refrained from putting a piece of toast to her doll's lips, like she would have done at home. So just really quickly, Crazy Kelvin, he's got a problem with the fact that these girls call themselves colored. And while Fern has a white baby doll, he says they need re-education. I kind of wonder what he means by that. I'm also kind of making a connection way back to chapter 1. And, you know, when I sort of explained that in this time period, things were changing. For a long time, the polite word to refer to Black folks was colored. That was the word that a lot of people use, but it seems to be changing. So I'm kind of wondering what the connection between this changing word for Black folks and this whole idea of them needing a re-education, what could that mean? Let's continue. Fern hugged Miss Pattycake, but refrained from putting a piece of toast to her doll's lips like she would have done at home. Still, the other kids laughed at her and called her white baby lover and big baby, except for the boy who looked both colored and Chinese. I told him to shut up, and that went for all three sisters in their flower dresses, even the tallest sister. No one could call Fern white baby lover, even though Miss Pattycake was a white baby, and Fern loved her. No one could call Fern a big baby but Vonetta and me. Vonetta ate her toast silently. We had cost Vonetta her summer friends with their white go-go boots and half-and dresses, but I didn't care. Fern could love Miss Pattycake all she wanted. We could call ourselves vanilla wafers, chocolate chips, or Oreo cookies for all I cared about black girls and colored girls. And even though Cecile didn't bother to bring us here or stick up for Fern, the Black Panthers had slapped palms and said, "Those are Sister and Zilla's, all right." So this is interesting. The kids are making fun of Fern because she has a white baby doll, but Delphine doesn't care what they think, and not even these girls in the fancy dresses. She also has a problem with like Cecile not taking the time to kind of come and sort of introduce them to the center or take time for them. But it's interesting that even though they still knew that like they were her kids. All right, so who's in this chapter? Right, who's in this chapter? What new things did we learn about them? So Delphine, she's sticking up for her sisters no matter what. Vonetta, it seems like she really wanted to be friends with these girls in the fancy dresses. And then Fern, I think she started to feel a little self-conscious about this baby doll because she's not like pretending to feed her like she normally would at home. And then there's this new character, Gracie Calvin, and he's calling out the girls for calling themselves colored and Fern for having a white baby doll. So it's kind of interesting. I'm wondering if this is going to be an issue later on. What seems important? What am I learning about the problem? Well, this is the girls' first real experience with the Black Panthers, and they're from seem to be different from what they know about them from TV. Here at the center, they're being fed by the Black Panthers. Also, Delphine is maybe a little bit angry or maybe disappointed that Cecile has left them to kind of stand alone and stick up for each other when the other people are making fun of them. I'm making a connection to an earlier chapter. So the Panthers know that the girls are Cecile's daughters without even saying. And I'm kind of wondering if that's because they're like a little bit sassy. Like, remember when the Panthers came to pick up the flyers from Cecile, and she's just like, well, these flyers aren't for free, the ink isn't for free, and she's kind of like making a little bit of a stink. I'm wondering if part of the reason why the Panthers are making a connection to Cecile is because, like, they have something to say. They're not just gonna, let themselves be walked all over. All right, your discussion question. What does the phrase suggest when she says beating eggs never makes the evening news? Use two pieces of evidence to support your thinking. So beating eggs never makes the evening news. That part comes in the story when the girls were first, Delphine was describing them being on the line for the center. Beating eggs never makes the evening news.